Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and man, as usual, I have a great round of questions from inside the Red Raiders subscribers, so I'm going to dive right into them. First one comes from Texas Tech Austin, who asks, "You are Coach Wells. What do you do to ensure that the team is ready to play and that you have a game plan that can be executed in the first half of games?" Yeah, so obviously in the first half against Houston, man, just what a disastrous start, but a glorious second half for Red Raiders. There, the second half is Texas Tech outscored Houston 31-0. That looked really good. Everybody was feeling pretty good about themselves, understandably so. Tech's, hosting the FCS school in SFA, so you think it's going to be a big blowout, but no. Went down to the wire. SFA almost beat Texas Tech. They had goal to go, only down 6 in the final 2 minutes of the game. I mean, that's about as close as it gets. And SFA had a halftime lead. Texas Tech jumped out to a 7-0 lead with that explosive Eric Ezukama play, and then personal fouls, drops, turnovers, just all these terrible mistakes ensued. And it's the kind of stuff, I said it right after the game in the podcast and the video recap. That's the kind of stuff that gets you beat. And really, if Texas Tech was playing anyone else on their schedule other than SFA, they would have lost that game. So they were very fortunate that they played so poorly in that game, but was able to emerge with the victory, which is ultimately what you're trying to do. But all of Raiderland kind of just went, okay, this is the Texas Tech we've seen. Stop giving me Kool-Aid. Jared, I don't want to drink it. I don't believe in it. And I understand that. I will say this, and I've said this. College football is a week-to-week proposition, all right? So that's why you'll see a team knock off, Goliath, but then lose to David the next week. I mean, and I'm not saying that's what the Tech situation was. I'm just saying hypothetically. I mean, you see that in college football a lot. Because emotion plays into college football about as much as any sport that I've covered and I've seen. It plays a role in all sports, but there's just something about football, about a team being focused or not, and then just the ripple effects of that. And I think that's what you saw against SFA. EZ got that personal foul for dancing after he scored the touchdown. He made some drops, and he's like, look, he's the team leader. They follow his example, and that's what happened. TJ Storman, another team leader, got a personal foul penalty after the snap, and then Shuck started turning the ball over. So, that's your team leaders that are making those mistakes. So everybody else just kind of followed suit until the defense stood up. And really, overall, in my opinion, the defense played pretty good. So, they stood up when they had to. They bowed up, forced field goals, eventually got that big fourth down stop, inside the 10 with goal to go. So, to win the game, which is what it's all about. So, in terms of answering your question and how they can get him to focus, well, I asked Coach Wells basically just about that. Like, you need to execute. I said, like, you made these mistakes. There are a lot of mistakes. There are uncharacteristic mistakes. I didn't want to say that for him. He said it, and like those penalties were. And so I said, as a head coach, what do you do? What do you do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And he basically said, look, first off, in another question, he said FIU has their attention, which is good because obviously SFA did not, the players at least. But then also he said, look, that was embarrassing, especially the penalties. Those kind of things are unacceptable. It's been addressed, and it's been talked about and handled, and it's not going to happen again. So we'll see. He doesn't think it's going to happen again. And I also heard that Tuesday was the best practice of the season so far, which, Sunday you come back from the game and you go over film and have your meetings. It's not really you got to rest some, right? You got those bumps and bruises. You see the trainer, all that stuff. Monday's an off day this year for Texas Tech, and so Tuesday is the first time they strap it back on and they get after it. The strap the pads back on and get after it. So, there's a price for not playing up to your potential beyond just winning and losing. And from what I gather, not only does FIU have their attention, but the coaching staff has the players' attention in terms of being accountable for how you play. So that's what you do. And in terms of a game plan and making sure you execute, the offense, you have a new offensive coordinator, a new quarterback, a new left tackle. You have some new guys in there, so it's a work in progress. And I always felt like it was going to be. There's a lot of talent potential there, but they have been working with each other for a while, but they haven't been working for just a long time. So I think, first off, we're going to get into this in a later question. They need to figure out what they want to do. They need to figure out an identity and then go from there. Because right now, I think they're still searching for one. So I think that's a big part of it. And then stop making dumb mistakes, penalties, turnovers, drops. Can't do it. That's it. So focus. Teeny Pepper says, I'm really interested in your thoughts about tight end and receiver use. He says, we heard a lot about how talented these groups were and are, but they simply aren't being utilized outside of Eric Ezukanma, who leads the country in receiving. He says, is this just non-conference vanilla game planning or something else? No, I don't think that's it. I really don't. That's just my opinion. I don't think that's what it is. I think, for one, Tech has played about half the amount of plays or snaps that they normally would. I mean, they got like 50 snaps and then 40-something snaps in those two games. So, remember, they didn't have the ball almost the entire first quarter against Houston, and then SFA really controlled the clock too, which, look, you could knock the defense, but also Tech was turning the ball over. I mean, they were -4 in the turnover department. So, it seemed like SFA had the ball almost, all game. Obviously, less plays, less opportunities. That's part of it. Another part of it is it's obvious that Tyler Shuck is looking for EZ, which I actually asked Shuck after the game, the SFA game. I said, look, EZ is a very good player, so it makes sense that you target him a lot. But a storyline is developed in that the ball isn't being spread around. I mean, it's being force-fed to EZ. I asked him if that was by game plan, like game design, or if that was his read. And he said that was his read. So that's what he's seeing out there. It may be like the read is, hey, if EZ singled, then get him the ball. So, which, it's hard for me to argue with that other than you do have other talent. Like Mason Tharp, basically, we saw him get one attempt to catch a pass, and it was a pressure game in his first game, college game ever as a freshman. And he really hasn't been utilized a lot. They've had Kuntz out there, but they haven't used him as a receiver a lot. Although at the end of the Houston game, he did catch some pretty big passes to move the chains. Not like big chunk yards, but big possession, like I said, chain moving receptions. We didn't see much from the passing game period, other than a couple explosive EZ plays. Against SFA. So, and then, really I still wanted them to run the ball more because that's what's been effective so far, which we'll get into that again in another question. Where's Loic Fawanji? He's a very talented guy. Where's Jerram Bradley, Trey Cleveland? I'm sure I'm missing people. Kalen Geiger, of course, that they brought in. What about, Miles Price at inside receiver, or Dalton Rigdon? Mannix had a great offseason, and then, he's looked terrible as a punt returner, and we've seen almost nothing of him as an inside receiver. And I know he may have gotten banged up in the SFA game, so that's really disappointing. I really thought they would utilize the slot and tight end receivers more, but, again, they need more opportunities, they need more snaps. So, and there's a question about this later, but Shuck needs to, the offensive line needs to give him more time, but he also needs to go through his progressions more. So there's a lot that needs to happen. It needs to be fixed on the offensive side of the ball. So we'll see what kind of jump they've made from Game 2 to Game 3. Pointman1 asks, who do you think will become the new alpha dog in the Big 12 Conference? Yeah, that's a good question. Because obviously Oklahoma, they won 6 straight conference championships, working on their 7th. They have been the big bully in football, and then basketball. It's been, of course, Kansas up until here recently, when Tech and Baylor and Kansas State have risen up. I honestly think it's going to be parity. I think there's going to be parity in the Big 12. I don't think there's going to be an alpha just dominating after Oklahoma and UT leaves. I can really see, Oklahoma State having its time, Iowa State, right now, over the next couple of years, maybe being pretty good. You know, what about BYU? Are they going to be good? UCF? You know, I think all these teams are going to beat each other up because I think they're going to be pretty close. And then on basketball, man, wow. I mean, Houston and Tech and Baylor, Kansas, of course. I mean, wow. It's good. Oklahoma State. It's going to be so much fun. So, if you were just talking about football, then I definitely think there's going to be parity. I don't think anyone's going to dominate. I don't think there's an Oklahoma in the bunch. Jay Forfeit asks, will this team develop an identity? And this is kind of what I was saying. One of the things I talk about later is, you know, I think this is what this team does well right now, okay? They play very good defense, especially against the run. I mean, teams are averaging less than 2 yards per carry. They're actually really good on third downs. Fourth down, where they've been bad. Third down is like one of the best in the country, or, you know, in the top tier. Fourth down is one of the worst. So if you could just get them to where it's not so like fourth and short, then obviously we get off the field more often. But I think they got to be a run first, physical offensive line. This offensive line is at its best when it gets to just tee off and run block. When it sits back in pass protection, they're just not really good right now, just to be honest. Run blocking, though, pretty dang good. They've sprung some explosive plays. Taj Brooks is, you know, amongst the Big 12 and national leaders in rushing yards, and he has 4 touchdowns. So Taj has been great. But it's not just him. I mean, Xavier White's had some pretty explosive plays, or he did, at least against SFA last week, and then he scored a touchdown reception too. So the running backs, I think they need to feature the running backs and then play their physical brand of defense with all that depth they have that really takes over in the second half. So to me, that makes so much sense. You know, pound on them on the offensive end, and then play action, do your RPO stuff, of course, off of that. But don't put everything on Shuck. Don't put everything on Cumbie to make all these plays. Just line up and play some physical football. I think they could do that even in the Big 12. I really do. Their offensive line averages 6'6", like 310 pounds. That's big. I mean, that's big for Power 5 football. So use them. And you have a stable of backs. Use it. Wait till Sir Roger comes back. You'll really have a nice stable of backs. So, to me, the clear identity should be smash mouth football. Run the ball. Play action RPO off that with those big freaking targets you have that you haven't been using other than EZ. And then go play defense and go get after the quarterback. And I think stop the run and then get after and then set it up where it's 3rd and long, where you can tee off on those quarterbacks and send blitzers from different angles and stuff. So that makes a whole lot of sense to me in terms of what Tech's winning formula or identity could be. Captain Popsicle says the past 3 years we've struggled with kickoffs out of bounds. He says field goal attempts, punt protection, fielding punts, catching and bad decisions on what to let go, etc. What's the issue with continued bad special teams play? Yeah, you know, I'd like to just say, man, this Mark Tarmadol, he's terrible. But it seems like no matter, like they've brought in guys that have won awards for being the best special teams coordinator, and they've just been terrible under them. So it just seems like there's like this tradition of terrible special teams all of a sudden. And it hadn't just been the last 3 years. It's been several years. And they've had a good punter here or a good kicker there. But I can't remember the last like truly effective or dangerous weapon they had as a punt returner. And like you said, I mean, I know what Coach Wilson, when we were talking in the press conference the other day about there's only been one issue, but no. It seems like just fielding the ball. And he said other teams have had problems, not as much as Texas Tech has over the years. Just fielding the ball. Just fair catch it and, you know, and catch the ball has been a problem, other than just letting it roll forever, you know, and losing all that field position. So I wish I had an easy answer for you, other than I would say right now that's just the recent tradition or culture. Now, Tech has done some things in special teams that have been good here or there, like their coverage against Houston. Their coverage teams were great. I mean, they didn't allow that All-American to do anything in the return game. So, you know, it's not like it's been all bad. There have been some shining moments. But, yeah, it seems like the punt return game has been bad forever. So, you know, obviously going back to, like, you know, Danny Amendola and Wes Welker, those guys were amazing. But that was a long time ago. Those guys are almost retired. You know, Wes is retired from the league, and Amendola, you know, he's got to be getting up there. So, it'd be nice for them to be. Cameron Batson, at least, he fielded punts, actually. He didn't do anything. His return yards was almost nothing, but he at least was a sure-handed punt returner. So I would take that at this point. That was what, 2015? Something like that. Or 16? It's been a while. So it'd be nice if Texas Tech could at least break even in that regard, instead of just it being such a problem for them. Because you finally get a stop. Like, you get a stop, they punt it, and then you lose all that yardage because you can't field the ball or fumble it. And it's just, that's tough, man. Red Raider John wants to know, any feedback yet from other recruits, basketball and football, who visited over the weekend? Well, I did interview Zach Keller, the 6'9", 4-star power forward recruit from Colorado. He is, he told me he enjoyed, the fan base impressed him. He said the campus and the fan base, very nice. There was like, checks, like, okay, I like this. He said he got along with the coaching staff and the players, which was another that's what he's looking for. So now it's just about playing style and the best fit. He's visited Wake Forest, he's visited TCU, Colorado is also on his top list, along with Illinois, and then he's visiting Utah this weekend. So, and it's weird, he's from Colorado, but he's been on like the Utah like summer league team or whatever. It's like with a bunch of other like kids from Utah. So, we'll have to see how that goes this weekend. That's something to watch. But he told me in the next couple of weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks, he's going to make a decision. So I think Tech's in there. Coach Barrett Peary has been the lead recruiter, and he likes him. So I think Tech's in a good place with him, but I'm not ready to put a crystal ball on it for him or anything. We'll have to see how it shakes out. I have not been able to catch up with Johan Traore, the other 4-star guy who visited. Robert Jennings is visiting this weekend, which isn't what you asked, but he's a 6'7" power forward from the Metroplex. Of course, our new recruiting analyst, Austin Massey, caught up with him, so you can read it, that preview. He's hoping to have a visit recap as well, so that's nice. After this weekend, in terms of football, I did not even reach out to Isaiah Kima, but running back Major Everhart from Amarillo, Tascosa, he's going, I believe, to Notre Dame this weekend. So that's something to watch. And then he's going to TCU the week after that. So he, by all accounts, he had a good time on his unofficial to Texas Tech. But, he's going to visit some other schools. So, and he's been like one of the top targets, and now he's pretty much the top remaining uncommitted target for Texas Tech's 2022 recruiting class. I actually went a little more in depth in the Hump Day chat thread on Wednesday, so check that out. There's some talk about him, and our TCU site had a really good interview, and if you're a subscriber watching this, you can access that as well. So Major Everhart's like I said, top target, and I'll be catching up with him very soon to find out basically how these visits went. Next question comes from RC Ryder Jr., who says, do you guys know why Chadarius Townsend has fallen out of favor for anything other than as a returner, the running back? He's that dude who transferred in from Alabama. He was a former 4-star guy. He played receiver and running back. And I had high hopes for him coming into the season. But, yeah, first off, again, it goes back to them not playing a lot of snaps. But you'd think with Sir Roger being out, he'd get a shot. But, again, less snaps, so that canceled that out. And obviously they like Taj Brooks, which seems like a really good evaluation since, again, he's one of the leading rushers in the country. He's averaging almost 10 yards a rush. And then Xavier White they really like. So Coach Wells was kind of bragging on him. They like his versatility, the fact that he's a good runner. I mean, he averaged over 7 yards a carry last year and ran for over 400 yards. But he's also a really good receiver out of the backfield. So, it's hard to argue with that. So I still think Chadarius Townsend is going to be called upon. He's going to need to do something at some point this season. It's a long season. These running backs get banged up. So hopefully he's keeping his head up because they're probably still going to need him. Texan 44 has some over-under questions for me. Apparently I didn't do all that great last week. I think I cut it off. It was a bad editing job to start with, so that was just kind of a whole mess. I'm going to try and do better. I'm going to do better. Just like the team. Hopefully they focus. They're focusing more this week. Hopefully I'm focused on the over-under, I'm going to do a better job here. All right, so Roderick, 5 carries. You know, I have no indication if he's going to play or not. So this is just a guess. I'm going to say over. All right, the next one is Miles Price, 40 total yards, over-under. You didn't say just from the last scrimmage, just offense. So that could be return yardage, you know, punt return, kick return. You know, he's passed and reverses before. So 40 total yards. I'm going to go over for Miles Price. All right, Tyler Shuck, 225 yards passing. I'm going to go under. 0.5 running back screens. You know, I'm going to go over. That should be part of the game plan, you know. And, you know, obviously, just like every other team in the country, they have worked on it in practice. All right, Texas Tech, 425 total yards. You know, I'm going to say over because I think they're going to run for a ton. So I think they throw for like 200 and they run for like 250. So I'm going to say over. All right, Pearson and Schooler, 20 tackles. Over. Oh, that's tough. No, you know what? I'm going to go just under. Just under. I think they combined for like 18 or 19, but not over 20. All right, sacks, 3. I think they only had 1 last week. I'm going to push. Say 3 sacks exactly. That's a good number. 0.5 cornerback blitz, over. They will do that. Might be off the slot if you're counting that, but still a cornerback. All right, Florida International held under 320 total yards. You know, the quarterback is not a runner, or I would say over. But I'm going to go under. I think it's going to be right about that, 310 yards. You did a really good job with your over-under numbers. As usual, Texan 44. So that's good stuff, man. All right, the final question is from Mr. Clicks, who says, do I think the fan base's expectations of Tyler Shuck are too high to expect him to have mastery of this new offense as a transfer starting game 1? Well, I think you already answered your question there. Sounds like you answered your own question by the way you phrased the end of it, Mr. Clicks. Yeah. You know, one thing that I don't see anybody else saying that I've said is everybody said, oh, he led Oregon to the Pac-12 title last year. And that is a fact. And he started every game for them. Another fact. 7 games. All right? That's what he had under his belt as a starter. I think he played in a couple before that, too. The year before. But not as, like, the starter, the guy. So, I mean, while that is some good experience, there's no doubt. That's not a lot of experience. I mean, a lot of the other quarterbacks in the league, whether it be, you know, Skylar Thompson's hurt, but I mean, him or Spencer Rattler or Brock Purdy. I mean, you can go down like a long line of a lot of the Jarrett Dagey, the Big 12 quarterbacks. I mean, they have a lot more experience than he does. So, and then, like you said, it's a new system. He's a transfer quarterback, all that. So, a lot of new personnel. The one guy he's very familiar with is Eric Ezekama. And that's who he's targeting. And, you know, again, EZ will make you look good. So, it's kind of hard to blame him too much for that. But I do blame him for the turnovers. Even if there was a miscommunication with EZ on that one throw, I mean, ultimately it goes on the quarterback, right? Those guys will make you look good, sometimes make you look bad, but ultimately quarterback's got to take the blame and as they take the credit. So, you know, there's a couple of times where it was obvious SFA was coming and he didn't read the blitz, like including like that sack. So even if you take the sack, you can't fumble the ball there, you know. Shuck's got to play better. He played almost mistake-free, almost perfectly against Houston. Made some big plays. He still showed off his legs. He still has a big arm, a lot of talent. But we all are guilty of especially me, of overhyping Tyler Shuck. But I will say I have cautioned throughout the offseason that while he's very talented, he's a big upgraded quarterback, and I still believe that. He's not that experienced, so he's going to have some growing pains. He's going to look just like we've seen. He's going to look really good, mistake-free, and then like, whoa, you know, these people, he's terrible, get him out of there. These people that are just, my son calls people like that geniuses. We'll see. You know, maybe they'll be right in the end that Tyler Shuck is terrible, but I don't believe that. I believe he's talented. Like you said, new quarterback, transfer, all that, new system. And also, like I said, he's got to develop. He's still relatively young and inexperienced. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens, that's for sure. Big game. Texas Tech looks to go 3-0 against Florida International. 6 p.m. Saturday at the Jones. You know I'll be back here for a recap and more content next week. So with that, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.